the truth of the matter, and you said it so well, Dr. Vibe, there are countless Black, African/Caribbean students, international students who are here in our cities who are struggling.
It's hard to know because we don't have like the data to say what is the state of Black health before and after. And that's something that we've been advocating for, right? We need better race-based data that's done in a way that serves us, because race-based data has been collected on different groups in ways that actually cause harm, but we need it to be done with us in a way that serves us.
What is up, everybody? It's Dr. Vibe here, host and producer of the award-winning Dr. Vibe Show, the home of Epic Conversations, and I'm the host of Epic Conversations, 2018 Innovation Award winner and 2020 Best Podcast News Award winner given out by the Canadian Ethnic Media Association. I also co-host and co-produce the only online show in the world for dads and fathers that's sponsored by Dove Men Plus Care. And being part of that team since 2020, reached out directly and indirectly to over 400,000 dads, fathers, and male caregivers around the world. And today, it's Sunday afternoon, and in around 5 p.m. Eastern Time, we do this thing called Black Canada Talking. And what is Black Canada Talking? It's where Black Canadians give their POVs, takes on stories, events, locally, provincially, nationally, internationally. And we have another great conversation coming up today. And before we go any further, I have a special friend who's going to be joining us today. There she is. Who are you?
Hi, Dr. Vibe. Angelina Williams joining you again. I'm really happy to be back on the show. Thank you for having me.
Well, thank you. For our Black Canada Talking audience who may not know you, probably know them. All right, there we go. That's quite the intro. Can you share a little bit about yourself with the audience?
Yeah, so my name is Angelina Williams. I am a professional in the hospitality space. I do business development consulting for hotels and restaurants across Canada, well, some international projects as well. Have recently stepped into the development space, but I do a lot of work within the community, and the title that I'm wearing for this evening is just another concerned community member. We had a conversation a few months ago about the BEPA and just responsibility, accountability, leadership within Black non-for-profit space. And so in my capacity today, I'm just coming on as a concerned community member, continuing the conversation that we started a few months ago.
I was going to ask you to share about the BBPA, but the gentleman that's coming on next is the best person to talk about the BBPA. Yeah. So and then somewhere in the conversation earlier, I'll just say you had past affiliation with the organization. I'll just leave it at that. So as I said, we're going to bring on another friend. And he is going to be with us today. It's Brian Duarte, interim vice chairman of the BBPA, the Black Business and Professional Association. For those who don't know what it is, because I have a global audience, just to educate you on that. And Brian will, before he gets into things, educate on what the organization does. So what we're going to do is bring Brian up right now. Good afternoon, Brian.
Good afternoon, Dr. Vibe.
What's going on?
Lots going on, right? Thank you for having me back on the show again. And here to talk about the BBPA. Just a slight correction: interim vice chair. Not even chairman.
I will correct that in real time.
Yeah.
Okay.
Cool.
So before we go any further, for those who may not be aware of what the BBPA is all about, can you share that with us, please?
Sure. The BBPA has been around for 43 years. We are a Black serving organization. Focused on Black businesses, Black professionals, supporting businesses through various programs that have been ongoing. Youth-focused programs, scholarships. We've given out over $6 million in scholarships over the year. We're very well known for the Black Excellence Award, previously known as the Harry Jerome Awards, where we've been doing that, honoring the best within the Black community. But a real focus is on the programs, helping those businesses succeed, whether it would be writing business plans with connections, specific programming we run every year, Rise Up Women's Program, celebrating women entrepreneurs. There's a host of different programs that we focus on. Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Mhm.
So what I'm going to do is I'm going to give you a few moments to update in regards to what's been going on recent over the last few months. You know, you want to provide an update on the status of the investigation, then Angelina and myself will have some questions for you. So if you want to provide an update, and then we'll have some questions for you.
Sure. So I guess the update, I mean, when I came on the show last, we were, I guess, really digging into the meat of the investigation. You know, there was allegations brought back in, you know, there was a concern brought up at the AGM, a valid concern about, you know, certain amounts that had been spent on going to related parties within the BBPA, going back to previous CEOs, previous boards, and then that came forward in illegal allegations coming from Miller Thompson. It came forward as from anonymous board members originally, or not board members, original anonymous members, and then one of them finally declared themselves throughout the process. That was what originally, shouldn't say originally, added to what we're doing as an investigation. And we took all those allegations seriously as a board. In taking those allegations seriously, the first step we did is we had 2 previous board members that were attached to the prior board. They stepped down off the board so that the 6 of us that remained, we were new board members. We came in November of 2022, really started working in January 2023. And then 2 of us were tasked with leading this investigation. We've brought in external legal, third party, and external accounting help to go through that investigation to make sure that it's there, it's complete. That investigation has taken a lot longer than I would have ever hoped for. It's taken a lot of my time. I can say that throughout the summer, it's probably occupied up to 30 hours a week of my time, with impacts into my other business and being able to do that. But, you know, for me, it's about getting to the bottom of this, getting through this. But it is, you know, it's something that is not entirely, it's not within the control of the board to say this is when it's going to get done. We put up something on our website where we were hoping to have it completed by the week of November 4th. But as new information comes forward, that's just delayed it. And because we want to make sure it's a thorough investigation. On top of that, so we've got this own internal investigation going on, which means, as you can imagine, BBPA has been around for a number of years. We're looking at a specific time period over the last 4 years where these allegations are focused on, but you're looking to find board minutes, meeting minutes, executive minutes, going through documentation, whether physical documentation in the office, whether going through electronic documentation. So, and having to assemble that, having the auditors come in, look for all these different pieces, that takes a lot of time and effort. I think they've examined almost 200,000 pieces of 200,000 documents or different pieces of information. On top of that, we've been conducting interviews with past board members, current board members, current staff, past staff, to get a complete picture. So making arrangements for all that. And then when something gets uncovered, it's like, okay, let's make sure that's corroborated. Sometimes we have to go back to somebody else and interview them another time. So it's a process that takes an inordinate amount of time. And believe you me, I wish it was over. I wish we could get it done, but that's what's been going through. On top of that, you know, you got to remember, we're a volunteer board. So the board that's here right now, we're here on a volunteer basis. We're professionals in our own right. We have our own other businesses, other things we're onto. So we're doing that. The staff right now, we've scaled our staff back down. We're down with working with a staff of only 4, but it's because, as you can imagine, with all these allegations coming forward, some funders have paused, stepped back and said, you know what, we're going to wait to see what the results are. We fortunately have some funders that are still involved and still committed with us. They said, we're in this for the long haul. We're here. We trust you. We believe in you. And we'll see what comes out of the investigation. If something changes and that changes their mindset, fine. But right now they're here with us. But those that have stepped back have, right? And I understand that. So we've had to scale back the operation. So we're running with a very limited staff right now. We've actually chosen not to staff our main office at Elm Street, 180 Elm Street, and we've moved the staff into and keeping it up in Little Jamaica in Eglinton West, because we believe it's important to be in the community, and right there we're connected right into the community. So that's going on. On top of this, we've had SBCCI, which is a government agency, doing their own audit on monies that they gave to the BBPA. FedDev, which is FedDev Development Government Organization, they've also decided to conduct an audit on what went on. We have the City of Toronto, which had given us money, that just started an audit. We had an audit with Careers Canada from interns and students that we had over the last year. And then CRA has now chimed in and says they want to do an audit on us. So all of these, as you can imagine, with this small staff, volunteer board members, and we were reaching out to some of our staff. We're reaching out to our controller, reaching out to our executive director, saying, okay, we need to assemble this information. And every time we've got a new audit coming in, that's taken away from programming, it's taken away from what we do, and we have to follow up in those audits. So it's an enormous amount of time. And I keep hoping we're getting near the end. I have not yet to see a report from the legal team, but it's going on. They keep telling me, okay, we should have it for you next week, and then something changes. So that's where we're at right now. Mm-hmm.
All right. Well, thanks for the update. Angelina, please start off.
Yeah, thanks so much, Brian. You and I have had conversations before about the necessity to protect the organization. The BEPA is a legacy organization within the Black Canadian sphere. And it's really unfortunate that there are a few bad actors that have led us to this point. But again, I believe that everybody on this call, and many of the folks that are viewing, desire to see the best for the organization. So you did mention that there's a number of audits that are currently taking place. The audit that was spearheaded by the current board, that is not complete yet, or is that complete?
That is not complete yet, right? So when I talked to the lawyers back in October, they said, yeah, for sure we'll have the report in the hands of the board the week of November 4th. What happened after that is more information came forward that now they had to go and do further investigation that's also requiring to go back and not redo, but follow up with some people in interviews, because when you put it correctly, we're here to protect the BBPA and make sure this organization is around to serve the community. And so if there's anything that's incomplete, we don't want anybody to come back and say, there's something missing. You didn't look at this. You missed this piece of information, especially if it was something like the Public Guardian Trust or the CRA, because they're the ones with the ultimate authority. If they came back and say, hang on, your investigation wasn't complete, you missed this, that's, then there's things that puts question marks into it. So in that level of thoroughness and completeness that wants to be complete, that we need to get to, is taking extra time. And so, no, it is not complete yet. So it's not about what do we say, how do we position it? No, the investigation is not complete.
And so what about the financials for the current year, right? I know that this audit is for activities of years past, but presently, what's the status of the organization in terms of just reporting to the membership and making sure that we're on track to understand where we are for the last fiscal year?
Let me see how I put this one, because it's a tricky one, right? So the investigation is looking at what went on in previous years. It's looking at in depth, going at fiscal 2023 and backwards, fiscal 23 ended in March of 2023. So just, again, it's confusing between what's fiscal year and calendar years, but that's when it's ended. They've also looked, this investigation is also looking highly at governance and controls. What governance and controls were in place before? What governance and controls are here now? And additionally, we're looking at what governance and controls do we need into the future. Specifically on the last fiscal years, we are, that has in past years been completed by GMS. That was who was approved again at the last board meeting. As based on things that have come up in the investigation, we are unable to proceed with the current auditors at this time for the regular audit of the BBPA. So we actually have to go out and get new auditors. And that is that is preventing us from completing this year's audit to be able to report that to the membership.
So I'm guessing that you would have to put out some sort of RFP for an auditor to come forward and aid the. So I mean, is that the process in which you will be engaging? And
there's a process of which, because the auditors are approved by the membership, there's a process for. Because this is part of the investigation, that's why I'm not trying to deliberately be evasive, right? But I don't want to put anything out there that's currently part of the investigation going on that taints any of that before it's come out on the record. But yes, there is a process. If a board, because your auditors are approved each year by the membership, there is a process where either that auditor has to be removed by the membership, or that auditor chooses no longer to continue on their own and effectively resigns. So, and then at that point, yes, as we're doing with everything going forward, following our purchasing policies, yes, we would have to go out to some sort of RFP or quotation of something of that nature to make sure that we've gotten, bids and qualifications on who would be doing that audit to complete it. And then that's going to take time, because now they've got to start over in a sense, because they don't have familiarity with the records. So yeah, right. These are all things that are causing us a lot of grief because of everything taking the length of time it's taking. And yeah, I don't know of anything physically possible to speed this up any faster.
I sorry, Dr. Ryan, I feel like I'm taking over your.
No, well, I just have if I can just get in for a second. So yeah. Brian, so correct me if I'm wrong, there's a number of different audits going on, correct?
There's a number of different external audits going. Sorry, there's one internal audit.
Right.
Let's let's not use the word audit. Let's call it an investigation.
Okay.
Right? Because an audit is just looking at typically just looking at your financials. We're doing an investigation into financials, how people did things, contracts, everything that went on, right?
Right.
That's the internal investigation. There are, 5 other audits. One got completed, fortunately.
Which one is
that are going on by external third party. So the government has hired auditors to investigate a certain portion. So the BBPA gets funding. We got government money. We get money from corporations. We get money. City of Toronto gave us a lot of money towards the Little Jamaica and what was going on there. Each of those organizations have now chosen to audit their particular programs to say the money that was spent in our programs, how was it spent? Was it correctly spent? Were you following your policies? What were the governance? So they're, in essence, duplicating some of the things we've already done, but they've chosen to do their own.
Mm-hmm. Which investigation has already been completed, or which audit, I should say, is already
that was SBCCI, which was, I think it was for like $95,000, which was particular equipment and stuff that was given. And this is the challenge. This was stuff that was money handed out in either 2020 or 2021. So to go back, make sure all our records match that one, I can say we passed that audit. They went through, they actually found, I think they over contributed based on what our records, $4,000. So we have to give them $4,000 back out of the $95,000. But for the most part, they're happy with that. FedDev, which is the biggest chunk of federal money, which was $5 million over 4 years. And so we haven't even received, there's money so typically with all these organizations, the BBPA spends money and then gets reimbursed. So it's not like you're getting money up front and so on. So everything that's gone on over the years, we spend money, we submit documentation saying, here's where the money is spent on, here's the breakdown, we get reimbursed. The last tranche of money from the federal government is what we were waiting for reimbursement on. Not unusual, but they don't know the auditors can't say what's triggered it, but unusual. The government has said, we are going to audit the whole 4-year program, what has been spent, what's the controls, and so on. That audit is mostly complete. And why I say mostly complete, they're waiting for our final investigation because they're saying they don't want, because theirs is not as in depth, they don't want to go out and say, oh, we found this, and then our final investigation somehow contradicts with it. So we're waiting on that one so that is waiting on us to be completed. And again, it's holding up a chunk of money that would be coming in to the BBPA. The City of Toronto has now decided to do an audit. We just put together and finally got them all the information they need for the first round just this week. Careers Canada was looking into making sure it was properly utilized. Students that come from Careers Canada were used over the summer period. That one's not final yet, but we've given them everything they need. And now CRA is also looking to do an audit, and that's not expected to commence until end of January next year.
I have a question about just the process and the fact that there are so many moving parts with it. I've been a member for the BEPA for a while. Just to be for full transparency, I was the former chair of the Harry Jerome Awards for a number of years. Brian and the board and I have been corresponding over the last several months to discuss the investigation and ask questions and so on and so forth. But one of the main questions or concerns that a lot of members have been expressing to me about the transparency of the entire process of the audit, right? It's been shrouded in what seems like a lot of secrecy, and just understanding who the auditors are, what the scope of the audit is, what the process is, like what are we looking to find, and just kind of updates. As you mentioned, there seems to be like more information comes out every couple of weeks, and it causes the report to be delayed. But that information is not being shared with the membership, and I don't feel like the membership has been really properly engaged in the process of this audit of their organization, right? The organization doesn't belong to the board, although the board has a lot of power and authority. The organization doesn't belong to the board, right? So the organization and the board is accountable to its members. And I don't feel, and as well as many other members who've reached out to me, don't feel that the process has been incredibly transparent or updates have been provided in a timely fashion so that we understand what's happening. So last point I'm going to make is the delay for the next audit and needing to look for a new auditor. Having a members meeting during this process outside of the general meeting, right? Having a members meeting to say, hey, members, here's what's happened. The BEP has been enthralled in a lot of controversy, a lot of questions about our fiscal responsibility, a lot of questions around our governance. We want to engage with the members to answer questions that the membership may have, but also engage the membership on how best this board, who was elected in some way or shape or form by the membership, should be leading the organization forward, so that after these audits are all said and done, there is an organization still, right? I wonder why the board has chosen to go through this process kind of in the shadows, if you will, and it's been really secretive and quiet, and rather than engaging the membership.
I'll disagree with that characterization, right? So it's not that it's secretive and in the shadows, right? This is a legal investigation. You got to remember, this is not the membership. If the membership came forward and said to the BBPA, right, which is what started in March, right, when that was brought forward, say we want this, there was a response that was given out, right? I know many people said that's not an acceptable response, right? If the membership said, we want you to do this, and we want you to investigate this and do this further, right? And the board either did or didn't do that, and then how the board did that, that is fully accountable to the membership. What we have here is legal allegations were brought forward of misappropriation of funds. That means by anonymous members originally, but it was brought by members, but it's brought through legal challenge. This wasn't members asking the question, which was in their right. They chose to do this through legal challenge. That legal channel now puts things in a different perspective. This is now an investigation into, did someone commit fraud within the organization, right? I don't know of any investigation where it's that level of seriousness that now becomes done in if it's in the membership, it's in a semi-public forum, right? When you're doing this sort of challenge, even our existing board members charge two of us, myself and Janelle St. Omar, our interim chair, with leading the investigation to make sure that it's not tainted by other areas, because we have to make sure we get to it. And this is lawyers doing it. This is a law firm that's come in and doing the investigation, and there's serious consequences if misappropriation is found. That's now a serious consequence, depending on what breaches of there's allegations of not doing things properly under the Income Tax Acts with CRA. That's serious as well. So there's challenges of breaches under which the Public Guardian Trust could step in, right? So all of that, we have a responsibility as board members, two responsibilities. Yes, we do answer to the membership, but first and foremost, we're here for a fiscal and governance responsibility to the organization. Our job is to protect the organization. It's not to protect me. It's not to protect other board members. It's not to protect past board members or past individuals. It's to protect the organization. And so that secrecy, if you want to say that, right, is because this is a legal investigation into misappropriation of funds. And I wish it was done faster. I will admit that, no, we have not been out there updating everyone as often as we should have. I'll take responsibility for that, just trying to balance being a volunteer board member, doing the investigation, and trying to put food on the table at the same time, right? That's reality of what's going on. And how do we get that out? We've cut back on staff. So it's with the staff that we've had, I don't even want to go into all the challenges with the crossover and getting websites updated and getting information out. There's been a lot of operational challenges on top of just doing the investigation. The membership will get will get the full process at the end. This is what was done. This is how we've done it. This is who we use. These are the organizations we've used. This is what was found. This is what wasn't found. Here's the risk to the organization. Here's any breaches that may or may not have happened. All that will come forward in a special members meeting. And then, yes, we still have to go and do a regular annual general meeting where we're doing the audit and doing all those things.
Will the members receive the full unredacted report?
The membership will probably not receive the entire report, because if it goes out there, it's public, and then there's a legal risk for that from a number of different places. This is where I have to take guidance from what our lawyers tell us should and shouldn't do in that place. And I will bring forth why we're not given the full report, what's not there. After this is gone on and we go on to another AGM, the membership can decide whether this board should stay or go, right? If we did the right thing or not, and we should complete the investigation, that's there. We are at 6 board members right now. We're going to bring in other board members, right? That I want to be a full vote, because the last time really wasn't truly a vote. Bring in new board members. Those board members will have the opportunity to go in and see the entire report and when they've signed off and agreed to their fiduciary and duties to the organization. But as membership as a whole, the report's not going out there because we're not making the entire report public.
Okay, I want to jump in just for a second. First of all, I want to say hello to Dr. Tachi, chiming in from Fort Lauderdale, Florida. I said before, with all these investigations going on, and Shirley has a question that is based on what I'm going to say here. Will each one be released to the public individually, or it sounds that all these are interconnected? So if they're all interconnected, is that not a delay in getting information out?
They're interconnected from the standpoint of the small staff and the ones of us doing the on the board spearheading this are involved, but they're not interconnected. These are all separate audits, right? Why I'm saying the interconnection is because we're involved. The interconnection is because when we're doing that, we're not doing something else, right? That's the interconnection. Each of those I can't speak for those organizations. The federal government will say what they're going to release or not. City of Toronto will decide what they're going to release or not. CRA is going to decide what they're going to release or not. That is not for us to decide. They're not doing it for us. That's up to them to decide what they're releasing and making public and not making public. If there's some wrongdoing that some of them find, I don't know what they're going to say, right? But I mean, I'll get a sense of what's in those reports. I will probably the board will get a copy of those reports, but it's not public information that will be coming out.
I just want to follow up on something you said a few moments ago. Then why wouldn't the members not be given the new reports?
The investigation that's going on, there are legal ramifications if the entire report gets out. This is not Brian Duarte saying this. This is not the current board saying this. This is our law firm saying this is what we think is in the best interest of protecting the BBPA. We can override that and say, no, release the whole thing and run the risk, but this is what we are being advised by our lawyers. So to release the whole thing would mean this current board would be going against the legal advice and saying, yes, we'll release this and put the organization at risk for the things that the lawyers are saying not to put out there. So this is not a board decision. This is not a Brian Duarte decision. This is legal advice that is being given to us.
I know that we've been having this conversation for several months, but there might be some people that have jumped on and kind of don't have the background. Brian, are you able to say what the scope of the audit was and what essentially the board was hoping to clarify with this audit?
So the scope starts first and foremost with the allegations. So the allegations were leveled against Nadine Spencer. Allegations were against Roderick Barrington and Michael Pinnock. Those were the three board members named in the allegations. And included with that was Nadine's company, Brandy Q, and Roderick's company, Urban Res. So the starting point for and there's allegations of misappropriation of funds. There's allegations of breaches in the Charities Act and allegations of incorrect filings with CRA. Right, so that was what was named out in the legal documents that were given to us. The investigation starts there, looking at the entire time period when those individuals were in the organization and everything their organizations got money from the BBPA for, how much they got money for, and under what circumstances. How was that decided? What went to the board? Was there anyone doing things without board approval? All of that is the scope of investigation, which really goes from 2020 up until 2023. Then we've gone beyond that and we've said, please look into all monies. We've looked at the top organizations in terms of that got funding from the BBPA to see who else got money from the BBPA and in what amounts over that time period. Is there any evidence of ties between those organizations and those individuals? As best we can. We obviously can't go to another company and say, give us your records, that we have no authority, no scope to do that. But within our records and within our contracts and so on, we've looked at that. We've looked at all the board minutes. I shouldn't say we, the lawyers and the accountants have looked at all the board minutes in the past that they can get their hands on, executive minutes, to see how were decisions made. They've looked at what governance was in place at the time. They've also come and said, what has changed with the new board? Were there any changes? Were things done differently? Was there exposure before and after? What was the exposure? So and this is why I'm saying it's taken time. We want it to be as thorough as possible, right? Even though we're not going to give the whole report, what's coming out to the membership, I don't want any member, and neither does the lawyers, and neither does the rest of the board, to come back and say, what about this? Did you look at this? Why didn't you look at this person? Why didn't you ask this question? Why wasn't this done, right? So to the extent that we can see everything, it's a thorough investigation. And that's why I'm saying people like FedDev are waiting on us, because they know we're going further than what they did. They're just looking at the money that they gave to the BBPA, which is only a portion of the monies received over that time period. And so they want to know, was there something else there that maybe they should be aware of? And we've even told them, so this is the government, unless they take us to court and subpoena us and ask for a different thing, they're only going to get a portion of the report that says, here's the findings, here's the high level summary. We're not handing, again, the lawyers are not handing that report to anybody.
Right. With the exception of the board, obviously.
With the exception of the board, correct.
So you've seen, you've been a part of this investigation, like essentially probably more than any other board member. You've been
Correct.
Hands-on with everything.
Mm-hmm.
Based on what information you've received thus far, what are some of the highlights of the report you think that the members will be most interested in, or kind of speak to some of the questions that the concerned members group sent in their letter to the board?
What I can say at this stage is everything that was in concerned members, anything that was legally from Miller Thompson, anything that was brought up at the AGM will all be answered. That's all I can say at this stage. I can't speak to any of the details because, one, yes, I do know some parts of it, and I don't know the whole thing yet because I've not seen the final report. But the members can be assured that everything will be addressed.
Will the report, or I don't know if you could say this today, because you did mention it, about some of the vendors. Who are some of the vendors that receive the most amount of funding from the BEPA through the BEPA?
I mean, you do see other companies out there like, I'm trying to think of all the names off the top of my head. There's like, I think Simmons Law, I may get this wrong. You have ZSC or Zeus Services is a company out there that receives significant funding. Empowered Forex is another company that receives significant funding. We will be listing out at least the top 10 out there that have received significant funding from the BBPA over the years. And this is some of the things that we're looking to put in place that weren't there before, in terms of asking any companies going forward doing business with the BBPA. We want a copy of who's on their board of directors, who's their ownership, and who's their senior leadership, and making sure they're signing off on conflicts of interest documents. So we will go through and get what information we can to date, but there's a commitment for a greater level of transparency going forward.
Yeah. So the top 10 organizations that received funding from the EPA, what are those numbers? What do those numbers look like? we talking? I'm sure it's probably more than $10,000, but like what are
we're the top 10 would be in the $250,000 range plus.
Got it.
There is some company, there's a number of companies that got a significant amount of funding, right? There's a lot of businesses supported, right? I mean, but under the BAIDS program specifically, where there were service providers selected, and those service providers provided services to various businesses, those top service providers are probably the ones that got the most money.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. I absolutely do appreciate the new structure that the BEPA wants to put into place, where companies that are receiving funding have to be transparent in terms of who their board directors are and ownership and so on and so forth. From those 10 top companies, mm-hmm. were any of those part of the related party transactions?
That the report will speak to.
Okay, I just want to jump in for a second. Then, in your opinion, were there any inaccuracies in that 2021 report from GMS?
I'd have to go back and look at it. I don't want to speculate here right off the top. I mean, there was the report done by GMS in 2021, as that was commissioned by the board at that time, or at least by the treasurer, and so that will come out in the report. One of the things that I want to see going forward is when the audited financial statements come out, it says related party transactions of X number of dollars. Doesn't list who those related parties are, any of that. I think that needs to be out there and transparent. So that's something that we're going to, so when this report will say, yes, when the 2022 financial statement said so much money went in related party transactions, that will be shown. So the membership will see to the individuals in question, what the amounts were and who was paid what. So that will be put out there. But going forward, that will be listed. Now, going forward, there won't be any. Right, so I could say categorically there is not a single board member here right now that has received anything other than maybe a small reimbursement for an expense incurred on the BBPA's behalf. But I'm talking in expenses of like $100 or something like that. But that's not a related party transaction. That's an expense incurred on behalf of the BBPA and having to pay that back. But in terms of related party transaction, where you're talking thousands, tens of thousands, hundreds of thousands of dollars, nothing like that exists right now.
Okay. Mm-hmm. Okay. Then let me ask, when you became on the board, mm-hmm. what were some of the things that you and the board members sought to address?
So I think I'll say this in a couple of ways. When I came on the board, I was naive, right? I did not know where the organization was at. I didn't know the details of anything in the organization. What I know was I was asked to come in because the previous board was basically a working board. And all our investigation is showing that board was heavily involved in the day-to-day. We were brought in to do governance and oversight. So to provide that high-level governance, to make sure there's now that separation between what's going on and who's overseeing it. So that's what I was brought on in task. Why I say naive? Because as I'm finding out through this investigation, there's duties and responsibilities that I have as a board member that I was not aware of. And I sit in another charitable board. I've been going through and even talking with the legal team right now, and one of them, he sits on a big charitable board. He has learned a lot more that he did not know from being on that board. So there's an overall level of undereducation of boards out there and board members. So one of the things that we are putting forward is making sure proper training for board members. I've had 2 other boards ask me to come in and actually speak to them about what are some of the governance and best practices that they can put in, because some of the things that are missing and things that you have as a responsibility of board members are not known, right? There's training out there to how to be on a board, but you have additional duties and responsibilities under a charitable board, and you have different duties and responsibilities in an Ontario charitable board that was not known. So those are changes that need to be made going forward. Not an excuse, but where the BBPA is in terms of governance and so on is probably the same as 90% of charities out there across Canada. So there's a big gap missing. And I know beside the two I've talked to, others are using what's going on as the BBPA as a learning tool of how to do things better. But when we did come in to answer your question, one of the first things we did was we put in a finance and audit committee. That finance and audit committee was made up of our treasurer, myself, and 3 external CPAs who are no way connected to the board or the day-to-day. So we have that external view to it. That finance and audit committee, we had in new finance controls. We had, I think, 5 or 6 different areas that we put new controls in place that started taking effect in April of 2023. So we really started hitting the ground running in January, February of 2023. By April, we started putting new controls, and they were finalized by June 1st. So there was things we already started doing. And so to answer, when you're saying what we were tasked to do, we are there to make the organization better from an oversight and governance perspective. But we weren't given any insight saying, oh, there's a gap here, something's missing here, maybe you should look at this, look at that. I'll say, like everyone else, when allegations started coming forward, we were just as surprised. You gotta remember, small volunteer group. If you look at the amount of hours and time that has gone through in the investigation, there's no way we would have come in and just started doing something like that. So again, no knock on anyone saying, look at this, because I think it was worth looking at. I think what's going to come out needs to come out. And where the BBPA is going to be in the future is going to be so much stronger because of this.
Okay, I just want to come on 2 comments here. IPV8DT says, totally understood the board members are volunteers, not paid staff. They are doing their best to update the organization, the members, and following the rights of their legal counsel. Then also a question here. Have the membership appointed Ms. Williams to be their spokesperson on their behalf, or will other members get the same opportunity to join a live stream and ask questions of the BBPA vice chair? Ms. Williams?
Yes. So no, I have not been appointed by anyone. When this all came about, there was a concerned members group, a call for other members that had concerns about the report during the last AGM. There's a call for them to join in, lend their voices, state their names, ask the questions. Unfortunately, I was one of the few that were willing to put my face and name forward to ask these questions and engage with the current board. I continue to ask for a special meeting, a special members meeting, which Brian has already spoken to since being on the call, that we want to have this special members meeting. This is not a special members meeting, right? This is just a live. Thank you so much, Dr. Vive, for allowing myself and Brian to have this conversation in a public forum. But this is not the members meeting. This does not substitute a members meeting. We require, there's over 400 members to the BEPA that deserve to be engaged and updated. So I'm not anyone's spokesperson. I have not been appointed by anyone, but I'm just very loud and unafraid to, put my face in front of things that I believe.
Okay. Do you want to continue further with questions? I have a few, but always, I believe, ladies first.
I think you could go ahead. It's entirely up to you.
Okay, I'll ask one quick one. Just out of curiosity, Brian, do you think the BBPA should pay the volunteers that have supported the organization over the years?
In what sense? Any volunteers?
Yes.
No, I don't think so. Right? I mean, I think by nature of being a volunteer, you're wanting to give back. You're hoping to get something out of it by being a volunteer. I'll be questioning that for a while, whether there's been an equal exchange of energy here with the organization. But I don't believe volunteers should be paid, right? That's a choice you make. However, I do believe if you're asking someone to volunteer, they should have a clear understanding of what they're volunteering for. You know, when I was asked to come on this board, I was told you're going to give maximum 10 hours a month, right? As I said, throughout probably the last 4 or 5 months, I've been giving 30 hours a week, right? And that's my choice, right? I'm not, I'm someone that leads with compassion. And I have compassion for the community. I have compassion for the organization. I have compassion for our mission. And that's why I'm doing it, right? But volunteers, no. However, do I believe that the organization should be staffed correctly to meet its mandates and needs? Yes, right? One of the challenges the BBBA had is back in 2018, 2019, it was running at about a budget of $600,000 a year. And all of a sudden it's jumping up to $3.5 million a year. They ramped up quickly and things were done wrong in that ramping up, right? I shouldn't say wrong. Things were overlooked in some of that ramping up, but you have to staff for that. One of the things that I'm learning through this process is we're actually pushing back on some of the funders where we're saying to them, when you're funding an organization such as this one, make sure your funding includes enough capacity building in the organization, right? It's not just about, we're going to fund this and we want this award to go to this one and to the Rise Up Scholarship, Rise Up winners or scholarships. Great. Perfectly want that there, but you got to make sure the organization has capacity so that whether you're funding that or asking the right questions to make sure that organization has the capacity to deliver. So there's training that needs to happen on funders as well, you know, on going through. And, you know, to anyone else that's thinking that right now this delay is in no one's interest, right? More time that we're spending, myself, more time we're spending as a board to go through and figure out what's going on. But we're in what I'll call funding season, right? Between now and probably the middle of December at the absolute latest is when most funders are making their decisions for their budgets. If we aren't getting things in their hands by a certain time frame, we're out of the running, right? And so we're out of the running for another year, right? So this is, there's no one is served by a delay, and no one is also served by not making sure the investigation is thorough. So, you know, anyone out there that thinks they're trying to hide something, they're trying to cover it up, they're trying to protect someone, so what? If I protected one person and the organization failed because we're missing funding deadlines, I failed in my duty, right? I don't have an obligation to anyone there. I don't have ties to anyone. Before I came on this board, I can tell you categorically, I had no ties to anyone there, right? I knew Ross, I think from the year before when we met at we talked once before when we met at the National Black Canadian Summit in Halifax. That was the first time I ever met face-to-face with him. But there's no ongoing relationship. I don't have an ongoing relationship with Rustam Southwell other than knowing his reputation and what he's brought to the Black community across Canada. So there's no vested interest in covering anything up. And as I said, any delay is not to anyone's advantage, and we want to make sure we're thorough.
All right. Well, I think you do have a life, at least another life, and we're gonna let you get to it. I want to say Angelina and myself want to say thank you so much for taking the most valuable thing, your time, to share with all of us. And I know that this will be enough people watch it live and enough people watch it on replay. There's the contact information for the organization on your screen. If you're watching on most of the platforms, it's in the comments section. And I've also put Brian's email address also as part of what we've put out there. So no excuses. Now, he may be a little bit delayed getting in touch with you because he does have a few things to do other than this, but certainly reach out to him. And I know that there'll be more. Brian, I want to say thank you for taking time, because I know you haven't come on many platforms to share about this, but appreciate you coming on this one with myself and Angelina. So as always, want to say, don't just manage your time, manage your energy, and remember to give yourself grace. You do have a supporter saying, Brian, your mental health and well-being, as well as the rest of the board, is important. Please prioritize self-care and much needed breaks with stepping away at times to take care of yourself.
Thank you for saying that.
And Dr. Tachi from Fort Lauderdale says, this is great. Look into something I don't know much about before. Thank you so much. So we're going to let you go, Mr. B. We will be in touch.
I just wanted to say thank you to you, Dr. Vive, for giving the platform and opportunity. Made it easy to put it out there, right? Angelina, as always, you know, Angelina is the person that gives me a hard time, right? People say your work. No. Angelina gives me a hard time. Angelina is on my case, right? Pushing. And, you know, even when I disagree with her sometimes, I actually really, really appreciate her. And I really appreciate what she represents, and, you know, representing the community that's not in the board doing it. So I thank you, Angelina. I appreciate you.
Thank you, Brian. Thank you.
Right.
All love.
All love. There we go. Thank you, Brian. All right. Ms. Angelina, you know what? If you're ever looking to join me on any conversations, we need you.
So the individual said, who appointed Angelina the voice of the membership? I thought that was humorous.
Thank goodness. What is this? So just a few last things for you. Is it your vision at this time to have a meeting with the membership? Is that in your vision right now?
I think, and Brian's right. I do give him a hard time. I really do give him a hard time. And the reason why I give him a hard time is because, one, I believe in the organization. I believe in the vision of the founders. I also have a personal standard that I operate by, but also there are individuals in the community that ask me questions about what the board is doing and how, like, why isn't this happening and who's whatever. And I can convey to them all I can, but it benefits them to hear directly from Brian, right? So me have like constantly pushing for this members meeting allows the board to speak directly to the membership, right? We pay these member dues every year. And we want to ensure that the organization stays viable and relevant. And this is not an easy time for anyone. I believe that the individual that commented, you know, Brian, take care of your mental health. It is a volunteer position. I know exactly what it's like as being a former board member and the chair of the Harry Drum Awards. It is a lot of hours you're putting in. You're not getting paid to do it. You're doing it straight off of like love and dedication to the community, right? And I have said it before and I'll say it again. If people are upset, frustrated, angry, confused, passionate about what's happening with the organization, get involved. Get involved with the BEPA, get involved with other Black organizations within your community, get involved with your government, right? So your municipal
all levels.
Yeah, your local government, your provincial government, and the federal government. We have to use our voices, right? It's so easy to stand on the outside and complain about all the things that are wrong. It takes a lot of dedication and courage and passion to actually put yourself out there in front. And, you know, and again, I'm not just giving Brian a hard time. I am a person that puts my money where my mouth is, right?
From the first time I met you, 100%.
I put my money where my mouth is. And the few people that did step forward from the concerned members group offered our I don't say services, but offered to aid in the investigation, right? And help any way that we can, whether it be aiding and crafting a marketing strategy so that this information is disseminated to the members appropriately, you know, developing a strategy on how to build the BPA back after this investigation is over. And I'm sure that the board will take advantage of these offers when the time is right. But we are involved, and we did we are giving our time, not did give our time, we are giving our time. And it is difficult, but if you love your community, you show up for your community.
So I'll ask you this question that I asked Brian. What are you hoping to happen after the audits are over?
So one of the things that was said to me early on when I first lent my voice to the CBC article was, that I was being used to tear down a Black organization, which I took great offense to. I've said this before, organizations or publications like By Blacks did a deep dive on what was taking place at the BEPA. It is important for us to hold ourselves accountable. And it's important to make sure that our organization, our legacy organizations, rise above this stuff, right? Like this alleged misappropriation of funds. And we use By Blacks as I shouldn't say we used, but By Blacks was a vehicle in which this story was disseminated far and wide, and we're so grateful for the team there that was a voice of the community. My desire for the organization and the community afterwards is that other organizations that might not be so, up on their governance and their bylaws and not really, crossing their T's and dotting their I's, they'll take this as an opportunity to say, hey, we got to get our house in order as well. I want our organizations to remember that it's the community that they serve, right? They are beholden to the community. I know that when I said that, Brian kind of pushed back and said, well, we serve the organization. Well, this organization serves the community. The organization gets its funding because of the community that it's saying that it serves, right? There are 400 registered members, I think over 400 registered members for the BEPA. They're able to get that funding because of that membership, right? And so what I would love to see happen is that the communities within our organization, the organizations within our community remember that it's the community that they serve, and really figure out ways about on how to serve the community. We talked about the mandate for the BEPA, and I love that he was so honest and said, well, the mandate's not very clear. And we understand that, we can see that the mandate's not very clear with the BEPA right now. We're not really sure in terms of like who are they serving. I love that the youth are getting these scholarships, but there's a number of organizations that offer scholarships to youth, but not enough organizations that offer help to start up small businesses, right? And not just businesses in the sexy industries such as tech, but the dry cleaners and the mechanic shops and the service providers, the restaurants and so on and so forth. There are so many businesses, small and medium-sized businesses within our community that could use the help and the guidance and the resources of the BEPA. So kind of really focusing on what that mandate is and narrowing it down a little bit more, I think would be something great that will come out of this whenever the investigation is completed.
Yeah, that's one of the big concerns I have is when, because all these different investigations going on, it's going to be interesting to see when this information finally gets out.
We've been waiting.
Yes, absolutely. And we will continue to wait, correct?
I mean, I still think that a members meeting needs to be called, or something needs to happen. Even I know that they're waiting for the investigation to be completed, but we can't wait forever. I think the effectiveness of the organization depends on this wrapping up sooner than later.
Okay. Do I have permission to put up your Instagram handle if people want to get in touch with you?
Sure, why not?
All right. So that is where you can get a hold of. I'm going to put it out there. I hope that you join me on more conversations. I know you got a lot of stuff going on, but if you ever have the time, the mic, The screen is open and waiting for you.
I appreciate that. Thank you so much, Dr. Vibe. And thank you for giving us the opportunity to discuss this very important matter on your platform. That's appreciated.
Something tells me we are going to be together again, because I know that as soon as the report comes out, I think we'll be having another conversation.
I think so. I think so.
Yeah, yeah. So before we let everybody go today, if you want to get a hold of me, those are all the different places. Website, the drvibeshow.com. YouTube, Facebook, and LinkedIn, The Dr. Vibe Show. Instagram at the drvibeshow. X/Twitter, which I'm going to be leaving soon for Blue Sky, by the way, at drvibeshow, and email address dr.vibe@drvibeshow.com. You can catch replays of this epic conversation on The Dr. Vibe Show on YouTube, Facebook, and LinkedIn, and on my website, the drvibeshow.com. I'll put a challenge out to everybody. Contact me so I can just show your support for having Angelina on more. That's what we want. That's what I'm talking about. We need to get Angelina on more, but she's got, believe me, family, to get, you think Brian's tough to get a hold of? She's not too.
I will always make time for you in the community. I'll always make time. Always make time.
I know that, and I believe that. So be careful what you ask for, because family, you heard that live now, because I'm going to reach out to her periodically to get her on here, because you are fantastic on this platform.
Thank you so much.
All right.
Thanks for everyone that tuned in.
Yeah, and live or on the replay. Thanks, everyone. And please contact us. Well, maybe contact me a little bit more, because Angelina's getting everything. Come to me, but I'll probably end up going to her anyways. But, start with me first. So as always, live your life as a dream. If you can dream, you can make it. Sometimes you have to get small to get stronger. Block assumptions, then aim bigger, aim better, aim higher, aim wider. Love, faith, and respect, and don't just manage your time, manage your energy. God bless, peace be well, keep the faith, and walk good.